Okay. Calling the Lower Makefield Township Patterson Farm Master Plan Implementation Committee meeting to order for December 12th. In attendance is myself, Peter Solor. Remember to turn your mics on so it records.
Fred Childs, Secretary.
Jenifer Stark.
Joe Camaratta.
And we have nobody online. So first up is Fred with the meeting minutes.
The minutes from November 14th meeting was distributed. And fortunately, we now, thanks to the township and Janelle, we have the recording secretary taking those minutes for us. And they were distributed. There were a couple comments that she's picked up, and that is ready for approval then.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next up is the Nonprofit and Funding Subcommittee, which I guess that's all on you, Joe.
I guess that's me tonight. So I believe that when we left this at our last conversation, we had talked about the idea of forming a nonprofit that would be responsible for managing Patterson Farm. And the primary responsibilities of that nonprofit would be to do the preservation of the buildings and also the preservation and rehabilitation of the buildings, and also then to find tenants and manage the tenants that would occupy the buildings at the farm. So we had moved forward with this recommendation or with this proposal actually to the Board of Supervisors. We had met with Dave Kratzer, the township manager, in terms of how to form the nonprofit, and Ron Schmid had reached out to a group called Harbor Compliance, which was going to take care of the paperwork for both forming the nonprofit and submitting for the 501c3. The Board of Supervisors supported the idea, but asked us to put that on hold until they had time to review what a potential master agreement would look like. So we met then with the township solicitor to go through with her several ideas for a master agreement based on, I think I shared with you, PHMC, the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, has sent us some of their agreements because they own a number of state-owned properties that are managed by nonprofits. So we sat down and we went through that with the township solicitor. I actually saw her on Monday evening, and she said that she doesn't expect to have a draft until January. So I'm assuming that sometime either late in January or at the February Board of Supervisor meeting, they'll review that and make a decision whether we should go forward with the nonprofit or not.
Sounds like a progress update.
There we are. So, yep.
Unfortunately, I think some of our other topics are going to be like that, but I don't have any questions for Joe. Does anybody else?
So that, just to reiterate, that was the solicitor is reviewing that?
Right. The solicitor was actually tasked with creating a master or a draft of a master agreement between the township and the and a nonprofit, right? And I think what the Board of Supervisors would like to understand is what authority they're giving to this nonprofit and responsibility. And so I think they're going to look at that first, and then if they're comfortable with that, form the nonprofit, then the nonprofit will be sitting on the other side of the table and negotiating the rest of the agreement.
And that's January, February timeframe for.
Yeah, Maureen said, the solicitor said that she would have it in January. She didn't commit to when, but I'm assuming that say she gets it mid-January, we might get it into a Board of Supervisor meeting at the end of the month or the beginning of February.
Yeah, the first meeting of the month, they'll have all the reorganization
Right.
and everything
Yeah.
else. So
yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the subcommittee that is here. I don't know who wants, I guess I'll start because I have an email from Dave Kratzer. This is regarding the phase 2 out there. And we need the phase 2, just as a reminder, the phase 2 results we need in order to help determine priorities and costs for repairs. His email is he's trying to coordinate a follow-up meeting with RDA and their consultants. They need to determine available remaining funding. The thought seems to be that it might not be sufficient, and then they're going to discuss the township putting some funding into the pot to prioritize this project over others.
Peter, what project is it?
This is the phase 2 environmental study.
Phase 2 environmental study.
So the phase 2 would involve going out there with what was identified in phase 1 and actually pulling samples to determine like what's in those 55-gallon drums or what the status is of the labeled containers that have been sitting there for 20 years, what situations with the oil tank, et cetera. And then that more detailed scope will lead to a scope that could be used to create specifications and plans and estimates for cleanup costs.
And how long do you anticipate a project like that taking?
It would take, they would have to get somebody in their contract, come out, pull the results. That would take, and the samples would have to be sent out, and then they generate a report. That would probably take a couple of months. And then the result of that is the next step would be determining whether a phase 3 would be necessary for specifications and a more detailed cleanup plans in that. And then that would go to an actual out to bid for cleanup later on. So there's more steps and we would be doing more decision making because on the next set, it could be, well, we're only interested in X and not Y.
Mhm.
Do you want to add anything to that description?
No, but I think the time frame is like 4 months and then some decisions and then another
Yeah.
period of time. So this is a process.
Right.
And we wouldn't get estimates for cleanup as part of the phase 2. That would be part of the phase 3 because they need the phase 2 results.
You know what to get estimates on.
Correct. Well, the difference, we could ask for estimated cost as part of the phase 3,
Mhm.
could be included in those scopes or depending on how that gets negotiated.
Okay.
The other update I had from Dave was it sounded, and I'm not entirely sure where this got left, but it sounded like from his and Derek's perspective, they were still waiting on us regarding the painting priorities. But I thought that had been dealt with already. I didn't know how to respond to that.
I mean, Dennis has sent that along. I mean, he compiled our results in the Excel spreadsheet and said, here's the priorities from the committee and sent that along to them.
But did we actually say these are the ones we want? Maybe that's where the confusion. Okay.
I know he had the individual results and then he took the individuals and compiled it into, this is the result.
And we said these are the ones we're going to do and these are the ones we're not going to do.
I'd have to check the email.
Okay. Maybe that I'll check too.
Yeah.
That might be what, if Dave got a list of priorities, but not a, this is where we're cutting it off.
It's been, when did we do that in September?
Yeah.
Oh, September,
Yeah,
October.
it's been a while. And the environmental stuff kind of put that on the back burner. So he might not be following it.
Okay. And I did mention at the last meeting, I was going to go back out there and do some more review and I haven't done that. So that's everything I have. Do you guys have anything?
No, but it sounds like maybe from the phase 1 study, does that give us any more clarity at all or?
It says we have problems and that they need to spend more money to figure out exactly what the scope of the problems are. Other than we know where the lead paint is, which is almost everywhere, but not quite.
So who's going to revisit what we gave them and clarify with the township that they know what our recommendation is?
Yeah, yeah, if Dennis sent it, Dennis should be the one to clarify for the painting.
I don't know. Anything else?
I guess I have a question. Has there been any discussion? I know there was that home builder that said that they were interested in donating services. Is that gone anywhere, or is that just in a holding pattern? That was back in the summer.
Trying to refresh my memory.
It was DeLuca.
It was DeLuca.
Okay, they came in for some infrastructure projects. They had given an initial estimate and we had met with them and asked them more questions. But I don't know if they came back with a more detailed estimate on what we're doing with that. It also plays into, I guess, another question that I have, which is, how is the township handling the budget for this for next year?
That's a good question, particularly with the approval of the bond issue in the election. I thought we did talk about that, the last one. Wasn't our recommendation going to be to roll everything over?
Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah.
Dan, I think, indicated that it would just move into next year's budget.
And the budget meeting workshop was last week, right? He's not on the call, unfortunately.
Well, they've got the the proposed budget is on the website, I think. I don't know whether they finalized that or yet.
Okay. I guess we all have more homework to do after this. Well, wasn't the DeLuca thing, I mean, just as a side note, wasn't that also partly related to the Shady Brook situation? And I haven't heard anything on that either. I know that's not directly this scope of this committee, but
I don't know if that's how David tied it in. I think he actually just approached them about, and I think David and Dennis approached DeLuca about willing to support. And they said they would be willing to support in terms of in-kind. And I think part of that in-kind was the actual coming out and, doing the specs and estimates and all for some of the infrastructure work. I think that was what they were looking at donating to that. And with those specifications, but I guess I don't know exactly like who's making the decision about what should be done when with some of the infrastructure pieces. Like they talked about the driveway when they're doing the driveway, you run the sewer pipe, and all of those types of things. I'm not aware that it's come back to us, like the painting has come back to us to make decisions, right?
And yeah, that's true. And there also was the electric service that was a separate item that was discussed too. Okay. Well, I guess some of this will reach out to Dennis afterwards, and some of it I'll go walk and we'll try to get a longer discussion with Dave than what I had. Because the timeline on the phase 2 impacts everything that follows afterwards. Productive group tonight. Hey, back to you, Joe. National Registry submission.
I really would have hoped to have more progress on this year. We didn't make as much as I wanted to. I was relying on some volunteers who had things happen in their lives and weren't able to do as much work as I was hoping. So I met with Helen Hines from the Historical Commission. Helen has put a lot of effort into doing the historical significance part of the National Register. So besides that, of the submission, besides that, the other big part is the architectural description of the buildings. And then there's a landscape description that we need to do. The volunteer to do that, she wasn't able to get it complete, so I need to start pulling that together. And then there's a piece that we need to do on the research of looking at the productivity, the production of the farm compared to county or township and county averages, because the idea is that it's going to be historically significant as an agricultural entity and its output. So we need to start doing that. And we got all that data together. And hopefully over the holidays, I'll get a chance to go through that. The problem is most of this, especially from the 1800s, is all handwritten documents and sheets of documents that you have to go through and start picking out numbers and names and things like that. So it's a little bit laborious, but I think it's something that we could look at over the winter, get that piece done, get the significant piece done, and then do the architectural description. So maybe pull a draft together. What I hope to do is pull a draft together in Q1 to send it off to SHPO to get their initial feedback. And then there's just other mechanics we have to do in terms of putting the submission together then.
Okay. Other business. Okay. We're moving really along here. Public comment, and we don't have Betty.
In the public.
We don't even have our usual public of one.
Even they don't want to come out in December.
All right, back to you, Fred, to review what it is we've all agreed that we're going to do, or we're going to tell other people that they need to do.
Well, we're waiting on the hearing from the township and the solicitor for drafting that nonprofit agreement. Between Dennis and yourself, Peter, checking on the phase 2 timeline for when that might get resolved between the township and the RDA. Asking Dennis to clarify our priorities for the painting and get that moving forward for the spring. I can check on the budget for next year, see what the details of how the money for the farm implementation, the master plan implementation has been clarified in the budget for next year. Next meeting is January 9th, so hopefully we'll get some better information by then.
I think
Did we respond to the email regarding scheduling the next meeting? Did anybody do that?
not seen, usually Dennis responds to it.
Yeah,
I don't think I didn't see a response. That's why I was asking.
that's when it's tentatively scheduled. So
Well, does anybody have an issue with January 9th?
No.
So we could just respond right now.
Yes.
Then
or the 4 of us anyway.
I think we should keep the same.
respond to Katie right now.
Same dates. Right, I just wanted 2 points. So what the solicitor is drafting is a master agreement, not the nonprofit agreement. That's going to be handled separately, okay? The second is we need to follow up on the DeLuca proposal, and if I'm willing to reach out to David and just say, hey, whatever happened to that and what's the status? Who's going to follow up with Dennis on the painting piece?
I will. Okay. I got volunteered, but I knew that's where it was going. Yep. You guys pick the priorities. I have no problem pushing. There, Katie knows our response.
Okay, very good.
Right. Hearing nothing further, I make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.